Do you discriminate?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Do you discriminate?
I want to say no, but I need to understand a little bit more about how you are asking that question, and
Oh, okay. You know what it means to
you can't help me there.
discriminate, right? Either discriminate against someone or against something or
Yes,
whatever. Do
of
you
course.
discriminate?
So,
You do?
so I need to understand a little bit more what you mean by it, but I'll answer this, Jesse. Um, my goal in life is not to discriminate against any person, um, and certainly not in any protected class. So, as a corporate executive, for example, I'm responsible for hiring and things of that nature, vendor selection. So, in those areas, my goal is never to do that. And as humans, of course, we make mistakes. Um, but I think that was a thrust of your question. Of course, the other things in life where you say, "Hey, I have a preference for this. I have a preference for that. I like red. I like blue." Right. So I think you're speaking more to like protected um, classes, and no, I my goal is not to do that. Of course, we all make mistakes sometimes.
But when you're hiring people and you're interviewing them, you're looking at their resume, you will have to discriminate in order to get to the best qualified person, right?
No, I don't. I think when we say discriminate, and that's why I was asking you to elaborate a little bit more, we're talking more about unlawful biases based upon race, gender, age, things of that nature, right? Now, that's how I'm understanding the question. Um, now, as we're ascertaining qualifications for a role, we're looking at things like, were they in their last role very shortly? Do they have 10, 15, or 20 years of experience? Do they live within a reasonable commute, right? So those are judgment calls based upon your history, experience, and hiring people and their effectiveness. And then, even then, half the time we get it wrong. That's just how it is with hiring.
So you will have to discriminate then, right?
Well, I think I want to be clear. When we discriminate unlawfully, that's one thing. When we are making a judgment call, we're ranking, we're making our preferences known. For example, we work with HR and we'll say, hey, I really want someone who comes from the fashion industry because I think the fashion industry provides the best experience for this role. So I wouldn't call that discrimination. I would say it's a preference that you
Amazing.
think is going to help the individual perform better in the role, and it's not a protected status or anything of that
I want
nature.
to ask you about, and so are black people a protected status? Oh, let me ask you, hold that thought. Let's say that you hire someone, you're looking for an employee, and you get a person who walk into your office with their resume and they are a DEI person. And then you get another person walking in who is experienced. They have real experience. They got the job. Would you hire the DEI person or the experienced person, the qualified person?
But that's a good question. That's a good question. What is a DEI person, Jesse?
Affirmative action person, like a black person.
I'm still a little unclear. Are you saying a minority or are you saying DEI?
DEI, which mean affirmative
Okay.
action, reparation, kind of that. And they just changed the names along the way, and they finally came up with DEI. So would you hire, you being a professional businessman, would you hire a DEI person or an experienced person?
Well, it sounds like you're making them incongruent. So are you saying that an individual who has a protected class, a woman, a black person, a disabled person would be less qualified than someone else?
No, what I'm asking, would you hire, as professional, would you hire a DEI person or an experienced person?
It's a very difficult question to understand, Jesse. I'm sorry. Probably
So,
can't answer that one
um,
today.
a DEI person doesn't have to really know anything. They don't have to have experience. They just need to be DEI. Whereas a normal person would have to be experienced. They know the job. They know what they do. They're very good at it. And you had two choices to make. One, a choice between one or the other. Would you hire the DEI person or would you hire the experienced person?
Well, when we're hiring for any role, Jesse, it's about who is most appropriate for the organization and who can do the work.
The
It's a
best
business,
qualified,
right?
right?
It's the individual that's most qualified for the work. And I want to be clear, I am not at all co-signing on any assertion that diverse candidates are any less qualified than non-diverse candidates. So I do
What do you mean by that? Are
have
you
an
saying the
issue with how the
DEI
question.
person would be as qualified as the experienced person?
Well, I would never call anyone a DEI candidate.
But that's what they call it,
I would say,
right? That's what they call it.
well,
Why
I'm
would you
not.
call it that?
Well, I can only share my experience in 20 years of working in Fortune 500 companies. I've never used that terminology for a candidate. I've never heard a professional human resources counterpart use that terminology. But I will say this, when we think about the overall goals of the organization, and we know statistically diverse organizations outperform non-diverse because you have so many different ideas and lived experiences, right, that you can bring to the table. Um, Many organizations do establish goals for diversity. For example, I worked at Whirlpool, and one of their goals was to improve the percentage and number of Black women in manager plus leadership roles. So that was a specific goal. And it was also a business goal. It was a business goal because they wanted to be more successful by having more and diverse opinions at the table when decisions are made.
And so those black women that they're hiring because they're female and because they're black, wouldn't they be DEI persons because they're not as qualified, right? It's only because they're black
No,
and female, right?
no. So let me continue with the example, Jesse. So when an organization, I think very responsibly decides, hey, we want to diversify our pool of candidates so that we can then have a more diverse employee base that can make better decisions. That's all it is you're opening the funnel, right? So you're saying we historically recruited from this non-diverse college in our town. We no longer only want to recruit there. We want to go to an HBCU. We want to go and reach out to um, other organizations, maybe an LGBT organization at the campus, because we want to get all these opinions in. We want a bigger pool, right?
But would you
So
hire, I know, but would you look for the best qualified person or will you look for, in
always,
your search like that, would you look for the best qualified person or would you look for the DEI person?
well, see, that's where we go back to we want the pool to be bigger, right? So
So
what
it doesn't
happens is
matter that they're
you're getting
DEI?
all of these candidates. So
So,
you want to get everybody into the pool so you can look and choose who is the most qualified. And so I think a common misconception is that it's an either or. So you've posed this question to me a few times that it's like a DEI candidate or a normal candidate. It's candidates. Let's get all the candidates in the pool and let's choose who's most qualified, and let's give those non-traditional candidates that normally don't get a seat at the table, let's give them an opportunity just to apply and get in the door
Oh,
and
I
have an
see.
interview.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying let's give the DEI person a chance, even though they're not qualified because they're not capable of rising to the occasion. So you have to give them a chance, and even though they're not qualified for it.
No, 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 no. So we only hire qualified candidates. We only hire the best in the organizations that I've worked for. So I work for companies like Louis Vuitton, L'Oreal, Whirlpool. So these are like Fortune 500 companies. We only hire the best. But what I'm saying, Jesse, is open the pool. Get as many people as you can with lots of diverse backgrounds and lived experiences. And so I give you a perfect example of myself. I'm interested in running for office now, and something that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about it for about 10 years, and I feel like this is finally the time for me. I have a unique lived experience. That doesn't mean that I'm a DEI hire or like any less qualified. So I've been the victim of police brutality. I've been the victim of gun violence. I've been held up at gunpoint, Jesse.
By
So
black people,
imagine having some. What's that?
were you held at gunpoint by black people?
No, no. Um, and so just imagine, Jesse,
What
having
the?
me in the room discussing public safety, someone with those lived experiences. Can you really think how many people on Capitol Hill have been held up at gunpoint and the victim of police brutality?
Probably none.